Are we live? Let me pull my face out. Hold on one second.
Watch out, left. Străzile din Las Vegas. Uite care și valuri acum, ești de bun.
Everyone should appreciate what that was. This is from a tweet I have not been able to independently verify, but apparently it's from flooding in Las Vegas. It's a dude. Is that an alligator floaty? Is it an alligator floaty? It's a turtle or an alligator floaty, apparently riding the flash flood waters down the streets of Las Vegas. And you know that I'm obsessive, compulsive, neurotic, germaphobe to some extent. I can't really think of anything grosser than the streets of Vegas being washed down and washed clean. And from what I understand also, or at least what was explained to me, because my joke in that tweet was, it's all fun and games until you get sucked down a drainage pipe. Someone rightly pointed out that typically when there's flash flooding like that, it can't drain, and it's actually the drains that back up. So above and beyond, used needles, used condoms, feces, all that stuff that's on the streets of Vegas getting washed down in that deluge of cesspool swamp water, the sewage actually backs up as well. And so that man is literally riding a virus, or a tide of virus. Disgusting, reckless. I hope he's had his meningitis, tetanus, hepatitis, encephalitis. I don't know what other itis is. I'm already demonetized. What? Bull crap. Bull plop. I wonder if it's James Topp in the description, Gretchen Whitmer, or whatever. Disgusting. It looks fun until you come home with something that doesn't stay in Vegas. People, good afternoon. I'm having a Perrier Energy. Is it energy? Oh, Energize. This is my go-to now. 99 milligrams of caffeine, 35 calories per bottle. None of that stevia, fake sugar, aftertaste crap. Now I just got to work on a sponsorship. If Perrier wants to sponsor the conservative right-wing YouTuber who apparently was cited, mentioned in a Truth Social message from someone who went on to commit a stupid crime. Okay, people, two major subjects for today. From the Topp of Canada, the James Topp of Canada, to Gretchen Whitmer, the trial, the second trial, the 2.0 of the two individuals who did not get acquitted, there was a hung jury, and now they're being retried a second time. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can surmise from following this, the retrial of the two individuals who were the object of the hung trial is not going any better than the original trial that resulted in two defendants being acquitted because of rampant FBI misconduct and entrapment. We'll get there. Big news for next week. So I say it's always tentative, but it's been booked, confirmed. Monday, I'm going to have my immigration lawyer on for an interview. Not talking about my specific status, my specific application, visa, etc. And it's not going to be any specific legal advice, but she's going to go over the basics. I know a lot of people have questions, specifically Canadians who want to look into visas to come to the States, although maybe not so much anymore. It's not clear. The world is falling apart. The only question is, where is it going to be holding out the longest? The world seems to be falling apart. At some point, all you can do, I know some people have faith in God with a capital G. Others who don't necessarily believe in that type of religious entity have to have faith in something bigger than themselves. The world seems to be falling apart, crumbling everywhere. Europe, Canada, United States. You got your tyrant in Canada, Justin Trudeau. You've got what is looking increasingly like a banana republic in the United States. We're going to get there also today. But where's the last holdout going to be? If I had to take my bets, Florida and Texas, but maybe Florida over Texas will be the last bastions of freedom if the entire world succumbs to this push for a one government world order that Justin Trudeau seems to be ushering in with increasing rapidity in Canada. Okay, so we've got James Topp heading off. There's a dog in here, heading off the hour. James Topp, you all know him. What do you have to say? We're having a massive thunderstorm currently in Florida, so the dog gets a little nervous. James Topp marched across Canada in protest to the sanctions that he personally had to endure for refusing to submit to a certain the Fauci effect, for refusing to submit to the Fauci effect. James Topp, a military veteran, was sanctioned for his refusal. Marched across the country in protest. Surprised they didn't illegalize walking in protest in Canada. You can walk, just not in protest. Marched from the Terry Fox Memorial in Vancouver to the Terry Fox Memorial in Ottawa to meet with the politicians. Justin Trudeau, the perpetual, permanent, tyrannical coward that he is, did not meet with James Topp. And now apparently he's continuing his march and has continued his march to the easternmost point of Canada, which I believe is a place called Cape Spear off Newfoundland. I don't actually know if he's going to Cape Spear, the easternmost point of continental North America, but he's marching across Newfoundland now, continuing his protest march. And people have been saying, Vive, do an update, do an update. And I didn't realize, for everybody watching, I've got a new cell number now. And so phone calls are being forwarded from my old cell number to my new one, but not text messages. And so I think there's a lot of people out there who must think I'm extremely rude because I have not been getting text messages. And the other day, I just went through all of my text contacts and sent everyone my new number. So if we do know each other and you've been texting me and I have not been responding, it's nothing personal. It's actually my own stupidity. I thought text messages were being forwarded through. Apparently only phone calls and not text messages. I don't know why. Okay. James is in Newfoundland. I was in Newfoundland over 15 years ago. The most beautiful place, the most beautiful people. Tied for other places which are equally beautiful with equally beautiful people. It's magnificent. We're going to get an update. James, get ready. I hope the Starlink has been loaded up. James, sir, how goes the battle?
Good. How are you? How are you liking Florida?
It's hot. It's humid. But it's a fine place from which to wage what we call I will say the culture conflict. I have to worry about certain things, but I don't have to worry necessarily about Justin Trudeau freezing my bank account because I was documenting a protest in Ottawa. How are you doing?
Good. Just as an update, we started in St. John's, Newfoundland, back on July the 18th, and we're back here we're just about 100 kilometers away from Port aux Basques. So back, as you know, we arrived in Ottawa on June the 30th. On June the 20th, federal government workers were invited back to work. On June the 22nd, I had a meeting with 23 members of parliament with regards to the effect that the mandates had on me, the effect that the mandates had on a number of people and all of Canadian society, really. I was able to address that with those members of parliament and also bring forward the idea of the 3R equation, or repealing, reinstatement, restitution for wages lost was going to equal repair of our society. So we got to that meeting. That happened on June the 22nd. June the 30th, we marched into Ottawa. I'm not sure if you saw the footage, but it was entirely a successful event with minimum disruption to the city itself. Of course, there was one small altercation that, of course, the media zeroed in on. But apart from that, you're talking about thousands of people marched through Ottawa up to the War Memorial. I said a few words, and that was the end of part one. Not long after, it became apparent that, even though federal government workers had been invited back to work, no issue of, or the issue of other workers who had lost their employment was not addressed. The issue of the amount of wages that were lost over the last 5 or 6 months to those federal government workers was not discussed. Armed forces members who were released and what we're calling a 5F or unsuitable, they were labeled as unsuitable for further employment because they chose not to participate in the Chief of Defense Staff directive on vaccination. And they're not returned back. And furthermore, they have this code now applied to their service record, which they should not have. So based on all of that, we decided that this march needs to continue to address this, and it's not so much about freedom anymore as it is about justice. So between July the 1st and July the 17th, I sat down with a team, and we decided that this is something we needed to do. People were on board for it. We already kind of had our teeth cut, so to speak, between Vancouver and Ottawa, and we decided to include the rest of the country, especially here in Newfoundland. A lot of folks have been reaching out to us and saying, come to Newfoundland. And that's what we did. We thought about it. We planned it out. I had a number of veterans help me with this, and we decided that the best course of action for us was to go to the easternmost part in St. John's, Newfoundland on Signal Hill. And as I'm not sure if you're up to speed on your history, but Signal Hill is where the first transatlantic radio signal was received. And we thought it was quite relevant because of what was happening in the Netherlands at that particular time, and which is still happening. We know that a group of farmers are protesting various government actions there. So we started in Signal Hill, St. John's, Newfoundland, and we've been marching ever since. And now we are just about 100 kilometers away from Port aux Basques, so we have more or less completed the journey across the province. And absolutely, you're right, it is an amazing province. We were blessed with excellent weather, even though there has been a few forest fires. The reception on the ground here has been remarkable. Folks, again, are pulling over to say hi and welcome us, extend their hospitality and their gratitude. And it's been a really amazing experience here. I've met some great people. And the only blight on the whole experience has been our run-in online with a certain group that are known as Anti-Hate and part of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. So what they have done, and what I believe this may have started back in July, is they are mislabeling me, misrepresenting everything that we're doing through clever use of imagery, associations with other people, and whether they exist or not. And misleading articles. They are calling up businesses who we want to have a meet and greet, for example, at a local business, restaurant, lounge, hall, whatever. They are calling those places up and bullying them basically into not doing business with us. So that was...
James, go into a little more detail. I hadn't heard this. A group that purports to be anti-hate is now, what are they doing? Manipulating images, taking things out of context, a little bit of both?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, for example, I did appear on a podcast with Jeremy McKenzie, and because he and I had served together in the forces, I was more than happy to be on a podcast with him or his show that he has online. And we talked generalities and mundanities and the reasons why I'm doing this march. And because he has been labeled, and they are using that association between him and myself to label me as a extremist, right-winger, insert bad word, and they're using that association. And Jeremy, by the way, has done absolutely nothing wrong, except have a sense of humor. So, that is his crime, unfortunately. This is now a crime, apparently. So because he has a sense of humor, that has been used.
James, I think your audio just started getting very crackly. Can you?
So 1 sec.
Yep. And here we've got a couple of trolls back in the house. Keith Hutchins who trolls the channel is telling me to get a life and James to get a life. Irony. Well, yeah, his sound was degrading. I think it has to do with Starlink. Let's hear this now.
I can hear you good.
Yeah, but your audio is a little crackly. We might have to live with it. So guilt by association after they've demonized an individual. I have no idea who this individual is, and truth be told, unless he's objectively guilty of objectively offensive things, I'm not sure I would care. The idea that we can't associate with people who may have had their imperfections or even controversies is a stupid way of thinking, because the people who impose that don't even live by it. So this anti-hate group has been taking clips, calling up locations to say, don't let this guy, James Topp, a Canadian veteran who's marching across the country for constitutional rights, don't let him come to your venue.
Essentially, I don't know exactly what conversations that have been had, but here in St. John's, Newfoundland, for example, they were members of that organization were talking about how they had been contacting these businesses to encourage them not to do business with me. And furthermore, they had also been contacting town council members in order to also kind of misrepresent who I am and what I'm doing with the town, so that the town, and I actually saw one of these tweets by the town councilor in a place called Clarenville, Newfoundland, where she said, well, we didn't know who he was, but we had heard things about dishonorable discharges and white supremacy. So instead of actually going to the website and actually doing any research, they listened to rumors, and based on those rumors, they established the fact that I wasn't welcome in that town. So this is the online atmosphere. Let me put it that way. Now that is online. On the ground in the real world here, the reception has been amazing again, and everybody that we've met has been, this is the typical Newfoundlander response. Very friendly, outgoing reception. They're more than thankful and have nothing but good things to say. It's just a small online group that is kind of doing this kind of thing, and I'm sure you're.
Oh yeah, no, James. Yes, I was called a Nazi yesterday. So there's that level stupidity to all of this. And by the way, for those of you, so James, you flew out to St. John's and now you're marching back to Port au Basque?
Yeah, no, we drove. We had hunkered down just outside of Ottawa for a couple of weeks. Came up with our plan. We drove the entire, as you can see, it's over here on the rig, as it were, and our safety vehicle. We drove it out to St. John's, and then we started marching back towards Port au Basque.
And just so everybody appreciates this, to get to St. John, to get to Newfoundland, it's an island, people. You can only get there by plane or ferry. It's about, I think it's about 1,100 kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, James, from it's called Port au Basque, P-O-R-T, the Port au Basque, which is on the southwest end. St. John is about 1,000 kilometers. There's one highway that goes across the province. It's a rock.
Yeah,
it's literally a rock. And there's small little lakes across the entire island as you drive. It's green, it's lush and rocky, and these lakes settle in the rocks. Grossmore National Park is on the west side, so you haven't gotten there yet. St. John, beautiful. Signal Hill, I remember. If I remember correctly, there's a place where you can drive your car and it looks like you're rolling uphill or something along those lines. And the people are just what you would always expect and always hear as stereotypes of Newfoundlanders, the friendliest people on earth.
Yeah,
So
just
what's
to
the plan?
correct you, that's Signal. You're thinking, you might be thinking Magnetic Hill.
Yes, I am. Never mind.
Signal Hill.
Correction,
Signal Hill
people.
is yeah. Signal Hill is not that. That Signal Hill is a historic site in all of Canada. Actually, like I said, that is where the first transatlantic signal from Europe um, to North America was received back when radio was still a thing in its early days. With
Yep.
I believe the gentleman's name was Marconi. So that was the symbolism of it was not lost on us based on what I said before, what we have been observing happening in Europe now with farmers in the Netherlands. And we did actually get to Grossmorn. We did take because we were going a little bit too fast, we had to slow down a little bit, so we did take a detour and did do a climb up the Grossmorn. You can see it at canadamarches.ca. And everything, that you described, Newfoundland is a beautiful place. And if you ever have a chance to get here, I do highly encourage you to come. And you're absolutely right. On the 16th, we're going to be going back to the ferry terminal at Port aux Basques for a return trip to the mainland. And it's a 7 or 8 hour ferry ride.
Yeah.
And that is how you leave and enter Newfoundland from the ferry and/or airplane. Absolutely correct about that.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they still have a ferry that goes to St. John, which is something like 12 or 15 hours. But when we went, we didn't realize you had to book well in advance, and there wasn't another ferry for 3 days. So we just drove straight across the province back to Port aux Basques. But what is the plan politically? What's the plan with the march once you get to Port aux Basques, go back to mainland? Are you going home or are you going to continue?
No, so we have updated our kind of the reasons why we're still doing this on the website, and essentially we still are marching against any kind of requirement for an employer to demand their employees, federal government or otherwise, to have some sort of vaccination or have to prove a vaccination. We are marching on behalf of those who were affected. We are marching on behalf of those who had to comply in order to keep their paychecks. And now the focus for me personally, because I am affected by the Chief of Defense Staff Directive, and I'm talking about the Canadian Armed Forces now, on vaccination policy, I am marching to protest that action and get those guys their careers back and have those 5F releases overturned and have that mark stricken from their records. And that is why we continue to march. So the plan is to, again, capitalize on the will of the Canadian public to take part in this by contacting their members of parliament. And more importantly, in this case, we are trying to have the Department of National Defense Ombudsman engage in this matter. And so we've done it all over again. This is Canada Marches Part 2, the sequel. We have sent out 338 letters, 338 emails to all members of parliament and 90 sitting senators, asking them to weigh in on the issue of the soldiers who have lost their careers or have been vaccine injured or have been discriminated against because they chose not to participate in the program. And again, we are engaging with our members of parliament to either work with them or have them speak and act on our behalf with representatives from the Canadian Armed Forces to get this matter resolved, because it is unjust. I didn't just go out in my uniform and make a statement back in February for the hell of it. I did it because I saw something wrong, something morally, ethically, and more than likely legally wrong, and I stood up and I said something about it. And that is what we continue to do here at Canada Marches with the team now. So this is where we're at.
Fantastic. I mean, and especially now, CDC's updated their guidance as far as diagnostic treatment or treatment goes, no distinction between vaxxed and unvaxxed. But Canada, Justin Trudeau seems to be the holdout, wants to continue to discriminate between vaxxed and unvaxxed, won't pull back, and certainly won't instruct that sanctions for having not complied be stripped or removed from records. Do you have any upcoming meetings scheduled with politicians? Anyone running for the Conservative Party? Amplifying your voice?
We do. We have made contact with a couple of members of Parliament now, And for the time being, we'll just keep that close to our chest. But again, it is in order to protect them from any flack that our friends over at the Canadian Anti-Hate Network decide to throw their way. But we are in the process now of, again, working with them and establishing a meeting. What we would like to see happen is for us to be invited to Ottawa to have a conversation about how to apply the 3R equation to this situation. So repeal these mandates, reinstate these soldiers, restitution if they lost wages, and more importantly, restitution should they have lost the ability to go forward in a career. In the armed forces, there's specific times and places where you have to serve, certain positions you need to be in order to advance in your career. So that should be considered as well. And if we are able to have that meeting, or if, at least if a member of parliament is going to acknowledge that this is a problem that they're willing to weigh in on and engage with our members, with the Department of National Defense Ombudsman or the Minister of National Defense, and say, let's address this, we would like to be a part of that in Ottawa. Now, if that doesn't happen, then we will continue to march until we hit GTA, Greater Toronto Area, in which case we will establish a place for ourselves and invite that meeting to happen. And that will be an indication to the Canadian public where we're at. If we can get this meeting going on either in Ottawa or Toronto, we are going to show the Canadian people that in some way, shape, or form, we have some kind of democracy still available to us. It just takes a hell of a lot of work to make it function. But as it stands right now, we have just began the initial volley of emails, letters, and reaching out to the public through outreach like that we're doing right here and now, marching, meeting people on the highways, renting out places and halls where we can have meet and greets and present our ideas to the public, in that we are telling them exactly who we are and what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if they so choose to, they may also participate by reaching out to their representatives in the federal government.
Fantastic. I'm going to put the links where people can support you, but where can they go to support you to follow your progress?
CanadaMarches.ca, and nothing has changed there except we've added some more letters, we've added some more material, we've increased our merchandise lineup, and if they want to support, they can buy a T-shirt, or they can donate, or they can meet us on the highway, or they can extend an invitation, because this is where we are at right now. Because we have, I believe it was because we were successful in having that meeting, if we were successful in making contact with our federal government and engaging with the public. That is why we have become now anti-celebrities in the eyes of the media. Once again, we're being largely ignored, and then furthermore, at this point, we're actually being attacked by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. And I am at a loss to understand why, because at the face of it, we have exactly the same values. We want all Canadians everywhere to be treated equally, and nobody should have to be discriminated against, regardless of who they are. And so why they disagree with what I am doing and why they persist on name calling and calling local businesses to tell them that it would not be good for their business to have me speak there, why they feel they should do that is beyond me.
I can take a few guesses, all of which I'd like to know the funding of the anti-hate group and where they get their funding from, whether any of it is government funding. That would be the question I would ask. I'm not making a statement. I might look into it myself.
They are getting government funding. You can actually go to antihate.ca, scroll down to the bottom of the webpage where it is prominently displayed that they operate in part on a grant from the Ministry of Culture and Heritage.
I'll do that.
Don't take my word for it.
Oh no, I just asked the question. I'll do some online in real time investigation after we're done. James, have you seen black bears? For anybody who doesn't know, Newfoundland, crawling with them, at least it was 15 years ago. They have no natural predators out there except for the traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, we have seen a black bear and a couple of cubs. Also seen some moose and a baby moose. So, bit of a
It's amazing.
successful trip all around.
It's fantastic. All right, James, we do updates periodically as you continue your trek.
Yeah, absolutely. We do videos every day. We have a special one coming out, and we will probably reach out to you to help us viral that, in which I do kind of talk about the reasons why I'm doing that in a much more intense fashion than is typical. So I think it will be a little bit of something different for people. And if you're game, we'll share the video with you so you can share it on your platform.
I don't know, James. If the anti-hate group has designated you hateful, I may have to pull my distance back. Oh, it's an upside down world we're living in, James. It's upside down.
It is.
How are you doing psychologically and physically through all of this? I mean, you're around a good team, so you're not in solitude. Are you motivated, encouraged, discouraged, black-pilled?
Yeah, it is disheartening to see the censorship. It's a little bit disheartening to see the kind of in some of our organizations, such as the Legion, there's a little bit of lack of courage there. It is disheartening to see that being turned away from that particular organization multiple times now. So that does get discouraging. However, in the face of it, like I said, what keeps us going is people that we meet, the thanks that we get for what we're doing. That keeps us going, and it is physically demanding, and it can be psychologically stressful. However, it's the what we call in armed forces the maintenance of the aim. There's something that needs to be addressed here. There was a lack of justice, and justice must be pursued and brought to bear on the situation. No Canadian Armed Forces member should be forced to do something that they think is morally, ethically, legally wrong. None of them should be discriminated against, and none of them should be forced out of their careers because they stood up for what they believed in, and what they believed in is right.
How many shoes, James?
Oh, probably up to at least 10 or 12 now.
Because you're going to have done, if my math is going to be remotely correct, like close to 4,000 kilometers on foot.
5,000 actually.
Tabarouette.
We just passed 5,000 a few days ago.
Amazing.
So 4,300 to from Vancouver to Ottawa, and we're approaching the 800 kilometer mark here on the island. And by the time we get to Ottawa and or GTA, we will again have, or Windsor. I don't want everybody to forget Windsor. We have got lots of folks asking us to go there. So in one way, shape, or form, we will be in Windsor eventually, probably in October. But yeah, it's been a few thousand kilometers now. And yeah, definitely we are going through the footwear.
Amazing, and you got one heck of a tan too. I can only imagine it's a protest tan. I bet your torso is extremely.
It is. It's going to be my mark now. This farmer's protest tan.
Yep. Amazing, James. Thank you. I mean, and I'll say on behalf of Canadians, thank you. The anti-hate thing, I'm gonna go into a little rant about that after we leave. I'm also going to show people a little bit of Newfoundland so they can see how beautiful it is. But James, let's do this. Let's talk again periodically. Let us know where you are, and you'll come back on and talk to the world.
I look forward to it.
All right, man. Stay safe. Be good.
Have a good one.
You too. Amazing. Anti-hate. Let's do two. There's two things. If James were a troll, which he is not, I'm gonna pull up a video. You guys won't believe this. Google. If James were a troll, what he would do for the anti-hate group is on his way back to Ontario, he would take a little skedaddle by a town in Ontario known as Swastika. This is no joke, by the way. This is no joke. Swastika, Ontario. It's a town. I drove through with my wife once upon a time. To all of our residents and readers in the U.S., oh, here, hold on. Do you have a not on your effing life option here? Continue. No, you just have continue. Maybe later. Please select an amount. Maybe later. Sorry. No, thank you. What the? Oh, get out of here. Swastika, Ontario. It's a place. And I was there. I drove through with my wife. I think it's right near Timmins, Ontario. Named prior to World War II. Swastika is a small community founded around a mine site in Northern Ontario, Canada, in 1908. Today it is with the boundaries of yada, yada, yada. Swastika is a junction of the Ontario Northland Railway. Whatever. The town was named after the Swastika gold mine staked in the autumn of 1907 and incorporated in 1908. So that was always funny. It made for a good picture, but unfortunately, you can't share those pictures these days because they'll be used out of context. But let's just go to the anti-hate. Anti-hate. Never heard of it before. And much like what is it called? The Democratic Republic of North Korea. When they call themselves something, typically it's because they represent the exact opposite. Canada Anti-Hate Network. I presume this is it. Sign up for updates? No. Let's just see here. Funding. Fund. Let's hear it. Government. Well, let's just see who we are. I hope this is the Canadian Anti-Hate Network is an independent, non-profit organization made up of Canada's leading experts and researchers on hate groups and hate crimes. Oh, they're investigating a veteran who's marching across Canada for constitutional rights, or they're besmirching and maligning. Well done, and Canadian and exposing and stopping hate. Our advisory committees includes academics like, okay, whatever, relationship with colleagues, government, yada yada yada. Okay, I don't care about that. I'm not trying to put anyone on blast. I want to see mandate. How we define, let's see this. The mandate. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network counters, monitors, and exposes hate, promoting movements, groups, and individuals using every reasonable, legal, and ethical tool at our disposal. How we define hate group. Let's see this, people, shall we? A hate group is a group which, as demonstrated by statements by its leaders or its activities, is overtly hateful or creates an environment of overt hatred towards an identifiable group as defined in the Criminal Code and the Canadian Charter of Human Rights. Okay, fine. Education, news, get involved. All right, let's just see this here. We're going to go, who funds the Canada Anti-Hate Org? Let's just see this here. We might not be able to find it. Oh, here we go. Let's just see Canada. Here we go. Government of Canada and the Canadian Anti-Hate Network launch Anti-Hate Toolkit. Oh, okay. Well, here's our answer, people. Why? Why would an anti-hate group, a Canadian anti-hate group, target James Topp? Corruption. It's just corruption through and through. News release. Oh, June 29th. That's when did James reach Ottawa and go afterwards? In Canada, diversity is a fact, but inclusion is a choice. The government of Canada is taking action to address the troubling rise in hate across the country, which is having devastating consequences on victims, families, and communities. Does that include all of the church burnings, which arguably, but not so arguably, result from the hateful rhetoric coming from the government? Today, the Honorable Ahmed Hussein, Minister of Housing Diversity, he joined members of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network to launch its new toolkit, Confronting and Preventing Hate in Canadian Schools. Quick facts. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network, it's independent, except it works with the government. Non-profit organization we know that. The government of Canada provided $268,400 through the Anti-Racism Action Program to support the Canadian Anti-Hate Network's project. I'm sure it's nothing, people. I'm sure it's nothing. The government just working hand in hand with the anti-hate group. I'm sorry, people. I just realized the error in my ways. There is absolutely nothing suspicious about the anti-hate network working hand in hand with the government. I'm joking, people. I keep swiping myself out of my own stream. They shut it down. Nothing suspicious about the Canadian government working hand in hand with the anti-hate network, whatever the Canadian anti-hate group, who then go out and malign James Topp. Okay. It's people think of corruption like Tony Soprano or what's the guy from The Simpsons? The mafioso in The Simpsons. What's his name? Fat Tony. Like you walk into Mayor Quimby's office and you open up a briefcase of $50,000 and you say, "Do this illegal thing for me, and I shall give you this briefcase of $50,000 of crime proceeds." That's not how it works. It's wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, you give us $250,000 to fund our not-for-profit activities, we'll be beholden to you. Albino Viper says you can't fight hate without hate. I disagree with you. In fact, you cannot defeat hate without convincing people why the hatred is bad. You don't fight hate with hate. I'm sorry. All that you do there is compromise your own human decency and your own integrity. But I'm a coward, and it's hateful rhetoric to say such things. Viva, it's okay to say the Clintons are... Oh, okay. So, by the way, I forgot the standard disclaimers. No legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. Super chats such as these, YouTube takes 30%. If you don't like it, supporting YouTube, we are currently streaming on the Rumbles. Rumbles has these things called Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20%. Better for the platform to support a free speech platform. Better for the creator. You know the shtick. Viva Clips is where I post all the clips. Viva and Barnes Law for the People is the podcast. You can find it, all of these things on podcast. Most of them. Look up what the U.S. Treasury Department did this week. They added open source code to OFAC sanctions list. I'm going to have to look up what the OFAC sanctions list. This is beginning of banning free speech in the U.S. Ask Barnes about this. Will do. Super sticker from Carlos Gaspar. Thank you very much. Jeff Pearson says, please invite Eric Parker from Idaho on. Was arrested by the FBI for being on a bridge during a standoff in Nevada. DOJ wanted to make an example and scare conservative, hoping he runs for Congress. Screen grabbed, and I'll have a look at that. I think the freedom side around the world is winning. What these governments are doing shows desperation. Something is broken, and everyone with some intelligence can see it. I agree with you, and I think it's exactly why certain measures are getting more and more desperate. And the more desperate they get, the more vocal they become. And it's the same thing you see when people get trolled or, hounded on social media. There's an increase in the hounding as there's an increase in the desperation to do so. I hope you're right. And I will continue my role in all of this peacefully, civilly, and vigilantly. Steve Britton, the Anti-Hate Network has serial litigant. Oh, Richard Warman on its board. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network has serial litigant Richard Warman on its board. Warman has sued all kinds of people for defamation and has filed 26 Section 13 Canadian human rights complaints. Steve, 1,000%, and that name rings a bell. That rings a bell. Let me just see if I'm going to Google it to make sure that I don't accidentally know something that's confidential that I'm not supposed to disclose. Hold on, let me see if it's public knowledge. Hold on. Give me 1 second, people. I'm just going to see if I can find this real quick. The neuroses in me. Okay, I think I'm pulling up an article that makes this public. Hold on. Bear with me, people. There we go. Okay. I think I can do it now. Let me go back to that chat if I can find it. And we're going to do this. Where was it? Steve Britton. What was the name of that lawyer that you said it was in the human rights? Here. Yeah, Richard Warman. Okay, people. Just got to double check. As just so everybody knows, I'm a damn vault. I know things that people will never know that I know, but I've got to make sure that things are public when I disclose them. Here, speaking of Richard Warman on its board, if he's indeed on the board of the Anti-Hate Network, I'll have a look afterwards. Serial litigant, files all kinds of human rights tribunals complaints. Well, it seems he also files lawyer complaints. Code of conduct complaint filed against convoy lawyer. May 31, 2022. Ottawa human rights lawyer filed complaint with Law Society of Alberta. Ottawa human rights lawyer filing a complaint with the Alberta Law Society against the lawyer with whom I don't believe he's ever had any professional or client-based interactions. A lawyer who was part of the legal team that represented some of the Freedom Convoy organizers is the subject of a complaint to the Law Society of Alberta. Keith Wilson was working for the Justice Centre for Constitutional Freedoms, a legal organization and registered charity based in Calgary. When he was on that team at the height of the demonstrations in Ottawa. Richard Warman, his name is Warman, the man of war. I prefer Freiheit, the man of freedom. And I think Nomen es Omen. There's a sign in the name. Richard Warman, waging war against free speech in Canada. An Ottawa human rights lawyer alleges Wilson violated his professional code of conduct and has filed an official complaint with the Law Society of Alberta. JCCS President John Carpe is already under a code of investigation for having hired they'll never stop looking for a good reason to rub John Carpe's mistake in his face. In the letter of complaint dated February 25, 2022, and obtained by Radio-Canada, I wonder who leaked that to them. Warman writes that Wilson posted material inciting police officers to disobey their oath to uphold and enforce the law because it would benefit his clients. Can you imagine? This is the complaint? Even assuming it's true, Keith Wilson says, look, these police officers have a duty to uphold the law and not impose unconstitutional restrictions or shut down peaceful protest. Oh, he's inciting officers to disobey their oath. One screen, two films, except one of the viewers of this film is intellectually and immorally dishonest. Warman posts to a tweet by Wilson showing a video of an Edmonton police officer who is supporting the truckers and thanking them for standing up to the, God forbid, Warman, in a country where you represent human rights, you should defend the right to free speech. To the several hundred extra police now massing in Ottawa to soon raid arrest their fellow Canadians protesting for charter rights, watch this video, decide which side of history you are on. The world is watching. Ethical complaint. There's no weaponizing of the system going on here. Warman is acting in good faith, filing a professional complaint in another province against a lawyer with whom he has had no professional dealings that I know of. Warman alleges that Wilson engaged in trivialization of the Holocaust by retweeting material comparing Justin Trudeau to Adolf Hitler. 95% of the lawyers give the other 5% of the lawyers a bad name. Can you believe, by the way, the world in which we live, blackface Hitler was actually trending big time on the Twitterverse. Warman is a human rights lawyer. He just doesn't respect human rights. Serial litigant, abusing of the system, abusing of the ethical complaint system, abusing of the licensure board to wage war against his ideological adversaries. Well, if he's on the Canadian anti-hate group, there you go. They get government funding and they have serial litigants who are unconstitutional by their actions. Hey, Viva, please shout out WR. Been going through a rough shadow ban phase for the last 30 days. Any subs, check the bell is clicked. Winning Reality. This is neither an endorsement nor an encouragement of your content. I'm not entirely certain what it is. I just know that you have a channel. Thank you for the super chat. People, this might be the best advertising $5 can buy. Thank you very much for the support, Winning Reality. And yeah, the YouTube, it's a fickle mistress. What does it mean to hate? Or what is hate? Yeah. Warman filing ethical complaints against lawyers for representing their clients Yeah, it's all right. It's crap. All right, so that's James' top update, people. Keep in mind, next week we're going to have some Canadian content. Monday, the immigration lawyer that I used is going to be on at noon. I'm not sure how long she has, but we're going to get some good questions out there, some good information. Generalities, no specific legal advice. # not legal advice. Tuesday, Roman Baber is coming on, as is Jim Karahalios. Jim Karahalios has been on once or twice before, ran for provincial parliament with the New Blue Party. Roman Baber is running for the leadership of the Conservative Party. So we're going to have some good Canadian stuff next week. But let's get back to some of the juicy law stuff stories of the week. Let's start. Let's just go briefly. I'm not going to go much into the Donald Trump, I think we covered a lot of it yesterday. Just to summarize one of the straw man debates on the Twitterverse about the apparent inconsistencies in the stories coming out of the FBI via Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland comes out on Wednesday, gives a 10-minute speech at the podium about the raid on the former president of the United States Mar-a-Lago resort. He authorized it personally. It was legitimately sought, legitimately obtained. I thought he said something about it being circumscribed, the warrant, like reasonably limited. Couldn't find the exact quote. We saw the warrant now. Actually, before then. Merrick Garland comes out, says, I can't talk about it, except to say that the FBI's good name is being besmirched, despite all evidence to the contrary as to their corrupt and unethical behavior. Kleinsmith, Whitmer, just to name the two of the last 4 years. That is, I can't say anything more than that. Their good name is being besmirched. They are patriotic Americans doing good service, which I'm sure is true for 90% of them. The only problem is, once there's rot, the entire system becomes equally tainted by that rot. Can't say anything more than that, except that. Apparently then, leaks come out to the media about nuclear documents at the Trump residence, Trump Mar-a-Lago resort, which made it necessary to proceed by way of raid on a former president. They tried discussions and it didn't work. And it was nuclear documents, people. They had to. That thus far now we had a leak, or it was actually released because DOJ or the Justice Department made a motion to unseal the warrant. The media says Trump did not oppose it. Trump not only did not oppose it, he joined as an amicus, from what I understand, in the motion to unseal. The media says Trump didn't oppose it. My understanding is Trump joined in the request to unseal it. And it was, if you're playing chess, it was not a bad move, because that inventory list and the warrant has now been released. And I went over it yesterday. The warrant is nothing shy of the most extensive fishing trolley you can possibly imagine. They want everything and anything, anywhere and everywhere in the Mar-a-Lago resort, with the carve-out of private guests' rooms. They also, in the documents that they want all presidential records created from just a very limited, circumscribed period, January 2017 to January 2021. They want all of the president's presidential records that the president created in his presidency in this warrant. It is the actual embodiment of a banana republic. A government coming in, arresting, they haven't arrested yet, but they're pressuring. Apparently they're pushing for an indictment. Going after the previous administration, setting aside whether or not, the trustworthy FBI that fabricated evidence to obtain a secret and unlawful FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page and the Trump campaign, whether or not they did anything of the same thing again this time around in their persecution of Trump when they got caught for doing it the last time. They want nothing more than to audit the previous president and to scrutinize with the objective of finding something for an indictment. Bolshevik might also be the better way to describe it. And people out there, I tweeted out and said, oh, there's nothing fishy about the fact that they were in dialogue with Trump counsel as relates to these specific documents for a while. These documents were removed from the White House, allegedly. These allegedly classified, purportedly leaked to the Washington Compost nuclear documents were removed when Trump left office 17 months ago. All of this known to the FBI, seemingly. And then you have people out there in the Twitterverse who have the memory of a goldfish. They have the memory of a goldfish. They're like, well, obviously, it's new information, you bozo. They didn't know he had nuclear they didn't know he had top secret documents. And that's their defense. That's their moral justification, because they are either ignorant, they are either dishonest, or they just have the memory of a goldfish, a political goldfish. Let me look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Some Trump records, this is from the Washington Compost. Some Trump records taken to Mar-a-Lago clearly marked as classified, including documents at top secret level. Oh, my goodness. Shocking. Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? This is from February 10, 2022. February to March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months. The existence of documents officially labeled as classified in the trove, which has not previously been reported raises new questions about why the materials were taken out of the White House. February 2022. I feel like I'm making a mistake on the date. February 2022 is after January 2022, which is after December 2021. February, March, April, May, February to March, April, May, June, July, August. 6 months. Some of the White House documents that Donald Trump improperly took February to were clearly marked as classified, including some top secret level, according to two people familiar with the matter. The existence of clearly marked classified documents in the trove, which has not previously been reported, doesn't say it was not previously known, is likely to intensify legal pressure that Trump or his staffers could face and raises new questions about why the materials were taken out of the White House. I mean, this could have been written yesterday, and then people would have been like, you see, it's proof. It's proof. That could have been written yesterday. And if I wanted to troll people on the interwebs, I would change the date to say yesterday and say, oh my goodness, they just discovered this. How terrible is this? Send Trump to jail. People would retweet that, say, oh my goodness, they just discovered this. Send them to jail. And then you tell them, oh, you idiots, it was from 7 months ago. And then they would say, oh, they found something new. They found something new yesterday. They found something new. Oh, by the way, and ignore the fact that the FBI, in recent memory, in persecuting Trump, fabricated evidence and submitted it to the court in order to obtain a warrant, and just shut your eyes or go full goldfish and say, I'm sure they had to have had a good reason to petition the court. And the judge had to have had great evidence to issue this ruling. So I don't do those types of trolls, because someone will say Vive shared a doctored image and tried to mislead people. Someone will. It'll work. And they will not even understand the point when they have their noses rubbed in their own willful blindness. Okay. The nuclear, I started doing it as a joke, and now I've burnt it into my brain the wrong way. The nuclear documents on its face was laughably stupid. Merrick Garland coming out and saying, I can't say what's in there, but, and then within 2 hours of him saying, I can't say anything more, it's leaked to the media. And then when the itemized list of items retrieved doesn't specifically mention nuclear documents, the nuclear documents, nonsense, it's crazy talk. MSM talking about the nuclear codes without reporting that the codes are changed daily. Okay. It's pronounced nuclear. Nuclear. That's from The Simpsons and also George W. Bush. Okay, let me see here. Error. We're just going to refresh. We've gone back to green, people. So that's it. preposterous. Preposterous, and now they're pushing for an indictment. It's like the people, the people pushing this crap at the political level have, it's not that they have no understanding for the division and the destruction of the fabric of a social society that it has. They don't care. It's good for politics and it doesn't impact them. They've got all the security in the world that they need. They've got all the money in the world that they need. Who was it? Liz Cheney, apparently her wealth has gone up 600% since her time in office, something like that. These politicians who are tearing society apart with this have no concern and are the only ones who stand to benefit from it. Did you see the Dem PAC had to pay Ray Moore $8 million for defamation? When are Republicans going to stop believing the MSM or the Dems when it comes to Republican candidates? Hold on. I did not see that the last. I'm not calling you a liar, and there's no but to that. I'm just going to go right now in real time and make sure about that. Ray Moore, 8 million defamation. Because for those of you who do not recall, Ray Moore was accused of sexual misconduct when he was running for office in Alabama. You know, they found 3-decade-old accusations. I don't know if it was 3 decades in Ray Moore's case. Jury, Democratic PAC defamed Ray Moore. He lost the election, by the way. Enjoy your $8.2 million that Dem donors are going to pay for now. I suspect Ray Moore would rather have won than get $8 million bucks. Ray Moore of Alabama has won a defamation suit against a Democratic-aligned super PAC over campaign ads dating to his failed 2017 Senate bid. A federal jury, amazing, a federal jury, this has to be in Alabama. What state? We'll find out what state this is. A federal jury awarded Republican Ray Moore $8.2 million in damages Friday after finding a Democratic-aligned super PAC defamed him in a TV ad recounting sexual misconduct accusations during his failed run for the Senate. They found the Senate majority PAC made false and defamatory statements against Moore in one ad that attempted to highlight accusations against Moore. The verdict returned by jury after a brief trial in Anniston, Alabama. The federal system might have a better chance of working outside of DC. Was a victory for Moore, who lost other defamation lawsuits, including one against comedian Sacha Baron Cohen. I wouldn't know the details, but I would think you have a better chance of winning against a super PAC than a super jackass. That being Sacha Baron Cohen, shock comedian extraordinaire. I did like Once Upon a Time his work. I now, in rewatching it, find it incredibly exploitive and actually not funny. We're thankful to God for an opportunity to help restore my reputation, which was severely damaged by the 2017 election. Okay. He's a former Republican, known for his hardline stances opposing same-sex marriage and supporting for the public display of the Ten Commandments. Lost his 2017 race after his campaign was rocked by misconduct allegations against him. Lee Corfman told the Washington Post and said Moore sexually touched her in 1979. That's when I was born, people. When she was 14 and he was a 32-year-old district attorney. He denied the accusations. Other women said Moore dated them or asked them out on dates when they were older teens. The accusations contributed to his loss. No crap. 1979, people. When people ask the question, are you afraid of the government coming after you? You don't even have to have done anything necessarily for them to come after you. They can find someone who will recall an event 43, it wasn't 43 years ago at the time. It was 39 years ago at the time. 1979, out of the blue, as he's running for office after 39 years, out of the blue, as he was running for office in Alabama. It cost him the election. I remember it clearly. You're only 5 years older than me. What? Cost him the election, but now he's got $8.2 million from a Democrat super PAC to show for it. I think he would have rather not had the problem in the first place than have the payout 4 years after the damage is done. All right, but speaking of damage being done and what else is going on, Whitmer, people. Gretchen Whitmer and the FBI that is patriotic, has a totally untarnished reputation, is always out for justice and never out for politically motivated persecution by falsifying documents and submitting it to a secret FISA court, or entrapping individuals who, but for the involvement of the FBI, would probably never in their lives have done such a thing. So 4 defendants went on trial. I'm proud to say that I was ahead of the curve on this one, smelling stuff that smelt a little fishy before other people smelt it. Took a little flack from some people saying, Vive, be careful. You seem to be defending right-wing extremists, clear criminals, as though it's guilty by accusation and not guilty after trial by verdict. So things smell a little fishy. These people might not be the most, I don't know them personally. They might, they might be peculiar people. They might be particular people. But that does not mean that they're guilty of plotting to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. And that's not to say people don't plot to do these things. It's just to say that when things start smelling fishy and people start shaming you for asking questions, on the one hand, it becomes a little more difficult to ask those questions because you do feel a little bit of this pressure from the name calling. Proud to say, we might have looked into this with more scrutiny than other goldfish out there. So 4 people were arrested. One of them pleaded guilty, sentenced to 5+ years. I think that's Ty Garber. Testified against the other 4. 2 of the other 4 were acquitted, outright acquittal in the first trial after being detained for 18 months in pretrial detention. They were acquitted. The other 2, the alleged leaders, were not acquitted, but they were not convicted. It was a hung jury, and they're being retried. You imagine the dude that pleaded guilty, thinking he was going to get clemency, a soft sentence, 5 years, testified against the other defendants who were acquitted. There is a life lesson to be learned in that. As James O'Keefe once said, do not bear false witness, even if it is to yourself. Second, you should have gone, if you thought you were innocent, you should have gone to court. Third, I don't know. I don't want to say cosmic justice for attempting to rat out others who might not be guilty. I'll leave cosmic justice to the cosmos. But there's a retrial now, and do we start with the rogue juror? Apparently there's a rogue juror, and apparently now one of the FBI agents testifying is revealing the atrocious level of manipulation, arguable entrapment, arguable orchestration by the FBI. Let me see here. We'll start with that one. This is from WSWS.org. I'm not familiar with this website, but undercover FBI agent testifies in retrial of accused Whitmer kidnapping plotters. Wait until you hear the level of involvement of the FBI. An FBI informant who infiltrated the militia group. Well, already I don't think this is right-leaning because the allegation is that they didn't infiltrate, they orchestrated. And that did lead to the acquittal of 2 of the defendants. Plotting to kidnap and kill Democratic Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020, testified for the prosecution on Friday. Okay, it was in cross-examination that some of the juicy details came out. On the 4th day of the retrial of 2 leading members of the right-wing Wolverine Watchman group, Adam Fox, Barry Croft Jr., FBI Special Agent Mark Schweers gave a first-hand account of the activities of the militia group as it prepared to take the governor hostage in pursuit of political objectives. Schweer, who pretended to be a supporter of the group from Michigan's Upper Peninsula, going by the name Mark Woods, told the jury he tagged along for shooting drills at a makeshift kill house and a nighttime surveillance of Governor Gretchen Whitmer's summer residence. Did they mention that apparently it was the other informants, FBI informants, who were actually planning these things, coordinating the training and procuring the armament? Did they? I'm going to see if this article mentions it. Yeah. Well, let's see here. Okay. In April, a jury failed to reach a verdict in the first trial while acquitting the 2 other men, Brandon Caserta and Daniel Harris. 2 months before they staked to the government. This is going into this. Yada, yada, yada. Earlier on Friday, Special Agent Christopher Long, a coordinator of the government's investigation, was cross-examined by cross-attorney Joshua Blanchard. The defense lawyer questioned Long about the informants that had infiltrated the Wolverine Watchmen. Long said there were 5 undercover informants who had contact with Cross at various times during the investigation. We've said it time and time again. One of the red flags in this case was the number of informants and FBI agents being almost as much, if not more, than the number of alleged defendants. 5 informants to go after Croft. Blanchard also questioned Long about the role of the FBI informants Steve Robeson and Jenny Plunk. Wait until we get to Jenny Plunk, people. What's the easiest way to a man's heart? Through his stomach and through his genitalia. You want to talk about entrapment and luring people in and getting them to do the illegal thing that they might not have ever otherwise done, but for a little honeypotting? Well, it's not even honeypotting, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not using that word right. Wait until you hear this. Jenny Plunk, who had contact with Croft and posed as political sympathizers from outside Michigan. Long told the jury that Robeson and Plunk traveled with Fox and Cross to a July 20 Cambria, Wisconsin field training exercise. Oh, they traveled with them. Or did they take them there? It was at this event that Croft unsuccessfully tried to detonate explosive using pennies and BB shrapnel. Oh, who procured those materials? Did they not mention in this article that Plunk was sleeping in the same hotel room and bed as Croft, I believe? Defense attorneys to Fox and Croft are pursuing the same strategy used in the first trial to make the case that their clients were entrapped by the FBI and had no intention of ever going through with the things they discussed. They were painting a picture of 2 men as down and out and big talkers who were incapable of carrying out the kidnapping. Here, let's just see here. However, Long said that Robeson and Plunk recorded Croft and Fox talking about building explosives and violently overthrowing the government during a meeting of national... The agents went to Ohio because Croft was planning something really big, and we didn't know what it was, Long testified. Blanchard also focused in on the fact that Robeson had been called a double agent by prosecutors who accused him of helping the kidnappers' plotters, including letting Crow know that he was going to be arrested in October. The defense attorney subpoenaed Robeson to testify, arguing prosecutors selectively used hundreds of hours of his recordings at trial. However, just as he did in the first trial, Robeson is expected to invoke the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. One of the FBI agents telling one of the informants to delete text messages. Oh, let me see here. Another issue confirmed by Agent Long is that Plunk knew Robeson before she became an FBI informant. Plunk also sold a Taurus 9mm. Plunk also sold a Taurus 9mm pistol to Robeson at some point while they were working as informants, which is illegal since Robeson is a convicted felon. Long confirmed that the FBI reimbursed Plunk about $8,000 during the investigation for travel and expenses. Where's the part? Oh, they're not going to tell it in here. Let me just find the article where they actually mention this, because it's kind of a germane detail. I'm not wasting time in that one because I know that. Is it this one here? Let me pull up this article. Oh no, that's the alleged rogue juror. That's not the right one. Sorry, hold on. Remove. The article that specifies that Plunk was sleeping in the same bed as the target. Here we go. This is from Daily Caller, basing it on the reporting from Julie Kelly, who's been following this and following it very well. FBI informants involved in Whitmer kidnapping debacle. You could see the framing. You could see the framing, different depending on the leanings of the publication. The FBI informants smoked weed, shared hotel room with accused plotter. I don't even know how this works. Is it illegal for the FBI agents themselves to do something that might be illegal with the alleged plotters themselves? Is it legal when the FBI does something illegal in the context of infiltrating an alleged plot? FBI informants in the case of the alleged 2020 plot to kidnap Democrat Whitmer purportedly shared a hotel room and smoking weed with the target, the Detroit Free Press reported. Adam Fox and Croft are undergoing a retrial on charges of planning to kidnap Whitmer from her vacation home in response to COVID-19 restrictions. The other 2 were acquitted. Defense lawyer Joshua Blanchard cross-examined Special Agent Christopher Long on Friday as part of the retrial, according to the Detroit Free Press. FBI informants Jenny Plunkencroft allegedly shared a hotel room in 2020. Long confirmed to Blanchard, according to the Detroit Free Press. Blanchard also alleged Plunk and informant Steve Robinson smoked weed with Croft. FBI agents, Schwiers has said in his first trial that FBI sources outnumbered alleged kidnapping plotters at some meetings with them. Outrageous. I mean, when it's a serious joke. There's that old philosophical question as to when, whatever the name of the ship, when the ship, if it's a wood ship and you replace one plank on that ship, it's clearly still the same ship. If you replace two planks on that ship, it's the same ship. If you replace the last strip on that ship, does it become a different ship? When does it become a different ship? When does a foiling a plot become actually orchestrating the plot? That's the legal question. More informants than alleged plotters. Informants doing, I don't know if it's illegal to smoke weed, depending on the state, but training them, sleeping with them, at least in the same bed. When does it go from foiling a plot to plotting the plot? Check out the channel No Way Jose for a great interview with Brandon Caserta, one of the defendants from the Whitmer plot. Okay, actually, I'm screen grabbing that. When does it go from foiling the plot to orchestrating the plot? We're going to find out. We found out with two of the defendants. I still haven't been able to determine how many jury members could not come to a verdict with respect to the two remaining defendants. There was there was more scrutiny potentially this time around as to the jury members. The legal experts out there really doing their work. Jury selection is going to be critical in the retrial of the two remaining defendants. They want to get a jury that is not critical of the government, that doesn't watch some news, as if jury selection is ever not the most critical thing in a trial above and beyond evidence. So there was some serious scrutiny in the jury selection this time around. I'd argue some serious specific selection this time around. But it seems that there might be something, allegedly, of an activist, a runaway juror on the jury. Is this what we're looking at? Alleged rogue juror? Let me see here. Are we looking at the rogue juror in StreamYard, or are we looking at the other article? No, we're looking at the other article. Hold on. Sorry. Despite all of the scrutiny, it seems that there might be a rogue juror. This is from yesterday. Alleged rogue juror under investigation in Whitmer kidnap retrial. Okay. This is the Detroit Free Press. They're sharing it from the Detroit Free Press. This is on MSN. The possibility of a rogue juror has been discovered in the Governor Gretchen Whitmer kidnap retrial, but the judge is handling the issue privately in his chambers, and the defense is crying foul, according to now sealed court filing by the defense. I'm curious as to who the rogue juror. I would have thought a rogue juror would have been for an acquittal, not for a conviction. The filing obtained by the Free Press states that a juror in the case told coworkers that the person was hoping to be selected for the jury in the Whitmer kidnapping case and, quote, had already decided the case and intended to ensure a particular result at the conclusion of the trial. Oh my goodness. If this court filing ever becomes public and people go out and see the social media posts by this individual, the jury selection, it's fascinating how quickly it goes in some cases and how limited, as a result, an investigation the parties are entitled to conduct to ensure that these jury members are entirely forthright and don't have stunning bias that could be discerned from social media posts. The judge, who learned of this information on Thursday morning, the second day of the trial, held a brief conversation about the matter with the prosecution and defense in his chambers before the trial started. The filing states. I'd like to see that filing. I don't know if I get it. According to the defense filing, U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker, who was the same judge, he's overseeing this trial. He was the same judge in the previous trial of the acquittal of the other two and the hung jury on these two. They're going to investigate the matter, Take it up at the end of the day. When the trial finished for the day Thursday, the judge held another private conference with both sides in his chambers where, quote, he explained his findings from the jury checks clerk's investigation. The filing did not disclose those filings. So continue reading. The judge also expressed an intention to handle the matter by meeting with the juror privately, though it's not clear whether that has happened yet. Oh, this is interesting. The defense requested to participate in the hearing, but the judge denied the request, triggering this filing by a lawyer representing Barry Croft Jr., the Delaware truck driver who is facing a retrial after his case was dismissed. It's interesting. The presence of even a single biased juror deprives the defendant of his right to an impartial jury, Blanchard argues, stressing that if the court receives evidence of things like juror bias, it must hold a hearing with all interested parties. Yada, yada, yada. Sleeping in the same room, people. The third day of the witness testimony opened with defense lawyers scrutinizing the relationships FBI informants had with the defendants. Croft lawyer focused on how the informants accompanied Croft on his several trips to the Midwest, and questioned whether one informant crossed the line by sharing a hotel room with Croft. Does none of these articles say the same bed? Because I understood from Julie Kelly that they shared the same bed. So that's it. You might have a rogue jury member who got on and wants to ensure, by the sounds of it, a conviction. FBI will do anything to justify their existence, no different than NGO fighting racism that's no longer prominent. It creates the racism to fight. I agree with a significant portion of that. My other issue is, where has there been recent cases of the FBI truly foiling something that they didn't arguably initiate, as opposed to the multiple examples of people committing massive acts of violence that were not just on the FBI watch list, but in direct communication with members of the FBI? So someone says, I don't think it's recreational in Michigan, but it depends on also where they went when they were on their trips. When they accompanied them according to some, brought them according to others, arguably. So it's the retrial doesn't look like it's going very good. It's the same judge, but apparently from one article in the Detroit Free Press, the judge scolded the defense counsel. Interesting headline. This is from August 13, which is today. The judge is getting impatient with the defense in the Governor Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping trial, telling lawyers they are taking too much time talking about crap, interesting, that isn't important, dragging out the case and exhausting jurors in the process. You can look at the jury and see that they are checking out, and they're checking out. U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker said after the jury went home Friday. On day 3 of the trial, Jonker admonished defense lawyers, both in front of the jury and in an absence, for, as he saw it, taking too much time cross-examining the FBI agents testifying on behalf of the government. That's peculiar. You're going to limit someone's fundamental right to their own self-defense? I would be curious to see this. Some cross-examinations have lasted 3 hours. So what? The cross-examination will last so long as it's yielding new relevant information. And I would argue, smoking the herb, as we say in the industry, and sharing beds with your targets, I know that I would have had some follow-up questions. Start focusing on what the important issues are before this trial stretches into Thanksgiving. Okay. The judge got testier after the jury went home. It's getting ridiculous, Jonker said at the time spent on cross-examinations, warning he is going to think hard over the weekend about enforcing time limits, unless the defendants can start focusing on something that really matters. Well, I guess I'd have to be there to know if the judge is being reasonable or unreasonable, but at issue for the judge on Friday was the defense fixation on the many different and wild kidnapping plans that were allegedly discussed by the defendants, including one where Whitmer would be snatched from her Mackinac Island vacation home and flown away in a helicopter. Yep, I'm sure those guys had that idea. Where are they going to get the helicopter? Don't worry. The informants can get you one. They'll just have to spray paint over the FBI on the side of it. It'll be just a black discreet chopper. Where would these people get a chopper from? Maybe they have one. Maybe I'm being mean, judgmental, and they actually have a chopper. As in the last trial, Jonker has sought to limit questioning about the helicopter. I would like to make that a big issue for the jury if I'm the defense, as to how preposterous any ideations these defendants might have had, and whether or not it was the FBI floating this idea because they could potentially convince the defendants that they could, in fact, procure helicopters. I'd be curious about that. Whether or not these informants with the FBI or the FBI itself could tell the informants, tell them we can get a helicopter. Here's some pictures of helicopters we can tell them that we have access to, so they can have these fantasies organized and arguably, framed as potentially coming to fruition by the informants or the FBI. Seems relevant to me, but what do I know? During the first trial, he said that the government's case is focused largely on an alleged plot to kidnap, yada, yada, yada. The first trial in the case ended with 2 acquittals. We know that. Okay. Defense has long argued its right to show the absurdity of the plans that were allegedly discussed, as it maintains the defendants were merely tough-talking, unsophisticated potheads who were merely engaged in puffery and fantasy play. Maybe. And I would also ask the question of the FBI agents. Agents or informants, did they make any statements to the effect that we can get you helicopters, and look at some pictures of helicopters that we can get you? Did they entertain these fantasies? Did they even plant the seeds of these fantasies? Did they lend plausibility to what would otherwise be, for these individuals, seemingly clearly implausible means to achieve an ends that it's not even clear who planted that seed in the first place? I'd like to know that. I would argue that's mildly relevant. And if I were playing devil's advocate or even defendant's advocate, I would say, you're damn right that's kind of relevant. These people had but for the ideas that were entertained or even planted by these informants, did they lend plausibility to these fantasies? If not, plant them themselves. Jonker told the defense lawyers he understands why they want to press certain issues, but he urged them not to muck up their arguments with all this other crap. Well, that's why the lawyers are in charge of their file, not the prosecutor and not the judge. They've testified so far, each taking about an hour and a half to tell their version of the events, but defense lawyers taking twice as much time. That means nothing in the practice of law. In fact, being too brisk, too not flippant, but too cursory with your position in chief might be an indication that there's some stuff that you don't want to tell. And it might be important to know what that is in order to flesh it out in cross. As far as I'm concerned, you can have a witness come up there and testify for 5 minutes. That doesn't mean that they're not going to be subjected to a legitimate and purposeful 3-hour cross-examination. Jonker had brought up the idea of time. Okay, so we saw that. Okay. Think about it. You'll have better presentations in my view, Jonker. Okay, whatever. Let's get it moving. How to get off Mackinac Island with the kidnapped governor. Gibbons got under the judge's skin when he kept grilling an FBI agent who had gone undercover in the militia about the group's alleged plans to kidnap Whitmer, either by boat or helicopter, and whether the agent felt they could pull it off. I thought they had the intention of doing something violent. It's an interesting response to the question. I didn't ask you that. I still have the reflexes of a litigator, and I'll never lose it. In fact, I think I had it before I became a lawyer. They had to do something violent, punching in the face, or smashing a pie in someone's face, versus helicoptering their kidnapped body off of an island, are two very different things. I thought they had the intention to do something violent is far different than they were actually plotting to helicopter Whitmer off of an island. Very different things. I didn't ask you that. Gibbons said, did you walk away with the impression that these defendants had the capability to bring that type of attack, or they were talking about? Some of it, yes. Some of it, no. Then came the question about the Black Hawk helicopter. Gibbons asked the agent whether he thought defendants had the ability to get access to such a helicopter. The judge said, move on. Why? One of my questions, I don't know if they asked it, did the FBI agents undercover warrant that they could procure one? I'd like to know that. Or did they even offer testimony or offer planning that they had one? I'd like to know that too. The question turned to Mackinac Island, yada, yada, yada. Okay, it's more of the same after this. Gibbons brought up the chopper again, saying part of the plan was to take Whitmer away by a Black Hawk helicopter. Yes, that was one plan. Yes. Gibbons then brought up another plan, taking her by boat to the St. Lawrence Seaway. That has access to Canada through Thousand Islands, I think. The judge interjected again, saying the government's point is going to be that there was a plan where the defense is countering that these were ridiculous plans. Yeah, implausible imaginings of people with no capabilities of actually doing it. Okay, look at those. Oh, this is a good article, people. Okay, sleeping in the same room. Sleeping in the same room. Does this one have bed? It doesn't have sharing. Sharing a hotel room. Jeez Louise. Okay, well, don't take. I'm gonna give you this article, people. You can go read it. It's Oh, I'd love to be in attendance of that court of that trial. Litigation, I find, it's much more fun when you're not the attorney getting berated by the judge, but rather just the one with the what's the word? I say the privilege of not having to be there, but being able to analyze it. It's much less stress and much less heartache of pouring in your blood, sweat, and tears to have a judge or a jury say no. Was the group called the A-Team by any chance? Did I say Mac? I think I said Mackinac Island, right? Anyway, so that's the latest in the trial. If it goes the way most people who know the details think it should, there should be an acquittal here, not because these people are morally innocent, the defendants, not because they're model citizens, but because there is a limit to what the FBI can do when purportedly infiltrating a plot for the purposes of foiling it. Because at some point in time, when you outnumber the defendants, when you're providing logistics, when FBI agents to informants are saying destroy text messages between us to destroy potentially incriminating evidence as relates to FBI informant conduct or potentially exculpatory evidence as relates to the defendants, at some point in time, if you have to commit the crime to foil the crime, there's a problem. If you have to frame guilty people, there's a problem. And it looks like these defense attorneys are doing a good job holding the prosecution and the government to that standard. They don't have to be morally innocent model citizen churchgoers in order to have been entrapped by the government. Do you think he could have been high when he said these things? Cannot remember, was high, I think. They're smoking weed and then talking about kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer. And so in this case, it wasn't just infiltrating and then it was literally orchestrating. I mean, we saw it in the defense of the other two who were acquitted. The informants and the agents were taking care of logistics, training, travel. Were organizing that. At some point, you have to put your politics aside and just look at how this agency is functioning. Your Honor, my job is to give my client the best legal defense possible, and that is what I am going to do. Yeah, except if it's, Alex Jones, and then you're going to get sanctions from the judge and opposing counsel. Jeremy Nakis, I hope you intended not to put a comment in that super chat, but thank you very much. When you delete a text message, it's just marked deleted, but the message is most likely still on the phone for months. Well, I think they actually had the messages that the FBI agent said to delete. And those text messages, to the best of my recollection, were the informant with the defendant. It was from the FBI agent to the informant saying, the informant was saying, what happens if they accuse me of being an informant? And the FBI agent said, blame the other person, frame someone else with whatever consequences that could have. And then said, delete these messages. And I guess they didn't delete them. Viva, love the channel and analytical thinking. Wish Barnes and you would do a video on this trial. Keep up the great work. We're going to talk about it tomorrow night for sure. Barnes has been sending me my homework. Oh, and I think he actually just texted me. We're going to talk about it tomorrow night. Joe Farrow, New Zealand, $10. Thank you very much. And what does the future look like? It does nullify their guilt if there was entrapment. True. And that's what some people just don't have a true appreciation of. If you tolerate it here, you're going to have to tolerate it everywhere. You don't get to say, well, these people were guilty, so the entrapment's justified, but these other people I don't think are as guilty, so the entrapment is not justified. Oh, here we go. Cornelius Haderech. Kiatz. What the heck did I just bring up? I didn't read that chat before I brought it up. All right, so that's the latest on the Gretchen Whitmer. It's going to continue next week. And Julie Kelly covering it, and I might see if she wants to come back on and give us the rundown on it, because it is a fascinating trial to watch. What I wanted to do was just to see if there was anything more. There was something in Twitter that I wanted to go, oh, the FBI. Okay. For anybody who gets involved in discussion on Twitter, other than the fact that it's horribly toxic, filled with disingenuous trolls and name calling, one of the did you guys hear that Tulsi Gabbard hosted Tucker Carlson's show one night when he was off air or on vacation? It's fantastic. One of the arguments on the interwebs right now, everyone's saying like, oh, they wanted to put Hillary in jail, but they want to give Trump the pass. Oh, they fought defunding the police, and now they want to disband and defund the FBI. I'll end it with this this thought experiment, this distinction. We've gone over the distinction between Hillary Clinton's confirmed violations, confirmed by James Comey, and the allegations against Donald Trump, which are mere allegations brought against Trump by a proven corrupt FBI. On the one hand, people, lock her up, and I'm not saying it, I would just say have a trial, was in respect of things which were confirmed, not allegations. Big difference. Allegations in Trump, confirmed in Hillary by a corrupt FBI, but doesn't mean that they don't get certain facts correct. So confirmed fact versus Hillary versus allegation against Trump. One distinction. Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, Trump, El Presidente. One has the ability to declassify anything while they're president. The other one, not so much. Big distinction. Those are not analogous. And so people can rightly say Hillary should have been prosecuted, should have been locked up, and what they're doing to Trump is a political persecution. Those arguments are not mutually, intellectually, or factually incongruous. The other one that we're hearing a lot of these days is, Republicans didn't want to defund the police, but now they want to disband the FBI. Also, not mutually incompatible, intellectually incongruous positions. Defund the police is at a local and state level. The police, other than the fact that chiefs in certain jurisdictions are elected and therefore are elected representatives who will answer to their constituents if they don't do their job well, the police are state and local law enforcement. State rights, state autonomy at the local level to keep the peace. The FBI is a federal organization, a federal bureau of investigation, which does not respond to any state level authority, and actually, flip side, encroaches on state autonomy. One, are elected, I'm not sure if it's everywhere, but elected in certain jurisdictions and are state level authority, keepers of the peace. The others are federal encroaching on state autonomy. Yes, there's some federal crimes that require federal agents to enforce. Yes. But they are materially different. One can say, back the blue, or at least don't fund the blue at a state level and disband the FBI, and it's not an inconsistent statement. Whereas anybody who says defund the police, but increase the budget for the FBI are full statists who have no respect for state autonomy or the Constitution itself, which is, probably exactly why some people hold that view. Defund the police increase the FBI, and then call hypocrites on those who hold the constitutionally and legally tenable position. No, don't touch the police, and FBI, get the hell out of our states. You don't have jurisdiction here to do what you're doing. So that's the argument, and it's a compelling argument, and I think it's the proper, justified argument and response to anybody who says, hypocrites, they wanted to lock Hillary up but not Trump, and they want to back the blue, but they don't want to, now they want to defund the FBI. Whatever. Okay, I understand that there should be a mechanism for interstate crime, but the FBI was supposed to be a temporary organization to begin with. Caligula. It's federal encroachment of state rights, state autonomy. I have never appreciated it until I experienced what I experienced in Canada during COVID and got to know the fundamental respect that some people have in the States for state autonomy from federal encroachment. And I didn't fully appreciate how bad it is. ATF, IRS, FBI, CIA, that can come into someone's private residence resort in a state and raid it. So it is perfectly consistent, and I would argue constitutionally justified to say, don't touch the police. We need our police. They represent us, but defund and dismantle the FBI. All right, now let's just go through my Twitter diary timeline time frame to see what other stories I might have missed that I wanted to touch on before I go jogging, play with the kids. Liberal Party of Canada. If this barbecue season gets a bit political, we won't let you get burned. Piss off and stop interfering with my life, government. That's what I would say to that. Leave my barbecue time with my family alone. Take a look at our barbecue banter to get the latest sizzle on everything little. I'm sorry, you just said if it gets political, we won't. Oh my God, they want to tell you what to say with your family when you're having barbecues, people. Let's just see what this. Trudeau is the reason inflation is high. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't even click on this. I'm sorry. I didn't click on this when I first saw it because I was just making a joke about the government soon to be banning outdoor barbecues. Are Canadians still allowed to have barbecues, or has the Liberal government banned those as well because of carbon emissions? And you might think I'm being hyperbolic and inflammatory. They've banned wood-burning stoves in Montreal for environmental reasons. Right here is Pollution Watch. Canada moves to limit wood burning. They banned wood-burning stoves in Montreal, which had the Jewish community in a frenzy because we thought they were going to shut down the two bagel shops, St. Viator Bagel and Real Bagel, which use wood-burning stoves to make bagels, because that's the only way you can make bagels, people. They grandfathered in those bagel shops so that, there wouldn't be massive uprising. Old, I was going to say a picture about my grandmother with her cane. You don't touch my bagels. I didn't click on this. This is magnificent propaganda. This is amazing. Trudeau is the reason inflation is so high. People, let's do this. Let's play a game right now in real time. I just kicked my dog. Didn't realize he was under the chair. Trudeau is the reason inflation is so high. What do we think the answer is going to be? I love this game. I can play this game every day of the week. What do we think the answer is going to be, people? Put it in the chat before we get there. If I had to guess, COVID, Putin. It's not Trudeau's fault. It's COVID. It's the interruption to the supply chain, and it's Putin's war in Ukraine. What do you think it's going to be, people? Let's see, shall we? Trudeau is the reason inflation is so high. Don't eat this one up. This is government propaganda. I'm paying for this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. I'm paying for this? My tax dollars are going to this? Inflation is a challenge that countries around the world are facing, mainly due to supply chain issues caused by COVID. And, oh my God, can I write the propaganda for them or what? Hey, by the way, you morons, you want the response to this government propaganda? Anyone who said Trudeau's the reason? Mainly due to supply chain issues caused by COVID-19? No. caused by government response to COVID-19. And just because other governments are equally as incompetent as Trudeau doesn't mean that Trudeau is not responsible for inflation. Oh, it could be a group effort, and Trudeau is in that group. It's not caused by COVID. Nothing of what we are going through, except for the direct COVID deaths, were caused by COVID. They were caused by the government response to COVID. Suicidal ideations and self-harm among teenagers was not caused by COVID, Trudeau. It was caused by your inept response to that. Amplified by Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine? Wrong again. Wrong again, Trudeau. It was caused by your response to, let's just even say I agree with your qualification, Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Let's just say, I'll give you that. Russia's invasion of Ukraine was illegal. Inflation and gas prices spiking in our country had nothing to do with Russia's illegal invasion of the Ukraine, but the government response to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. And the sanctions that you put on Russia, which compromised our ability to get fertilizer, to get oil, caused you to go begging Saudi Arabia and Venezuela for oil. It wasn't Russia's invasion of Ukraine that caused it. It was your incompetent government response to that conflict. We know inflation can take a bite out of your wallet, and that's why we're taking steps to fight it and make life more affordable for Canadians. Check out some of the ways. Let me just see what the chat's doing here. I can't see what the chat's doing here. Holy sweet, merciful propaganda. Oh my God. Ha, ha, ha. Banning wood burning while in the UK is burning 15 million tons of Canadian and American trees in the Drax power station. Forget that. How about the freight liners that go across the ocean that are responsible for what percentage of global emissions? Assuming that's even the problem. Intercontinental freight liners are responsible for more pollution than all the cars in the world, from what I recall as a statistic. Someone in the chat correct me. But you're going after granny and pops burning wood in restaurants, in wood burning stoves. You guys are out of control. I like how neither the original quote nor the liberal response have an explanation, just statements of fact. Well, let's see. But wait, there's more. Liberals are taking away my guns. Okay, hold on, people. What's the answer going to be for this one? I love this game. I love this game. Too bad we only get to do it one time, at least for this. Let's see. Liberals are taking away my guns. Well, if I'm a dishonest liar, what I'm going to say is these restrictions have been in place for years. There's nothing new. We're just expanding them to increase them to more lethal guns, more lethal in light of recent events. And they're going to invoke Nova Scotia. That would be one. They're going to have to find a way to blame conservative governments as well, to say it's not just us. The conservatives did this as well. And they're going to say, but you can still have them for hunting because nobody needs them for any other reason. Okay. What do you think? What do you think? Chat. Don't play the game. Inflation has one cause: the government creating currency. To try and skew it as a market condition is a flat out lie. To try and skew it as a market condition. No, I don't. There's stagflation, which comes with increased prices and printing cash. But inflation, it could come from, I don't think it exclusively comes from printing money. Maybe I'm wrong. I think interruption of supply chains can cause inflation because you have less demand, which is going to jack up prices. But dude, I'm not an economist either, and I really no economic advice either. Okay, let's see. The rules have been in place for a long time. Conservatives also supported it, and we're only expanding this to lethal guns, which people don't need in Canada anyhow for hunting. It's time to serve up some facts. We all know the devastation that firearms cause when they get into the wrong hands. That's why the Liberal government is increasing criminal penalties and putting a freeze on buying, selling, and transferring guns. So the Liberals are taking away my guns. They just think they have a good reason to do it. We've also delivered on our promise to expand background checks, fight gun smuggling, and ban assault-style weapons in Canada, because those weapons belong in the battlefield, not in our communities. Or they belong at protests in Ottawa, right, Justin? Right? True dope? Right? Trudeau to toilette? They belong on the battlefield or in Ottawa when you're breaking up bouncy castles and hot tubs for protests. Criminal and crime minister is what he is. While conservative leadership candidates promise to weaken our gun laws and roll back progress we've made, liberals are delivering on our promise to make our communities a safer place in London. So what's the answer? Liberals are taking away my guns. They're just doing it for my own protection. That's a great answer. That's what you call a self-own, you buffoons. And I mean you as in the Liberal government and whoever wrote this. Liberals are taking away my guns. What's the answer? Yes. Yes. But we know better. Oh, okay. The Liberal carbon tax is making everything so expensive. What's going to be the answer, people? The answer to this, I can tell you, is the future is bright. Who's going to fly the chopper? Jeez Louise, I didn't even think about asking that. We're going to kidnap her with a chopper. Do any of us know how to fly a helicopter? Don't worry. I'll go to a helicopter school and I'll just learn how to fly it. I don't need to worry about landing or taking off. Okay, liberals, the Liberal carbon tax is making everything so expensive. Answer? Sure, there's going to be an adjustment to going green, but in the long run, it's going to save us money and create jobs. Splash some cold water on this one. Despite what conservative politicians want you to think, our price on pollution actually puts more money into the pockets of Canadians. Just last month, Canadians living in provinces where our price on pollution applies received hundreds of dollars through the Climate Action Incentive Payment. So they're taking the money that they charge to these corporations and then giving it back to the citizens? Okay. What impact is that tax going to have on the cost of products coming from these companies who are now being taxed for carbon emissions? I'm sure it's not going to make those products cost more. While conservative leadership candidates want to make pollution free again, our Liberal team is making life more affordable while moving forward with bold climate action. I got to tell you, I could write better answers for these questions, and I disagree with the position. We're putting money back in your hands. The Liberal carbon tax is making everything so expensive. So the answer to this one is yes, the price of objects are going, the price of goods are in fact going up, but we're giving you some money back that we're taking from those corporations after, of course, the government has taken its cut as part of this massive, ever-growing blob of an administrative state. We're sending you hundreds of dollars back through the Climate Action Incentive Program as prices continue to go up, thus making everything so expensive because of the carbon tax. And by the way, what percentage of global emissions does Canada account for? I think it's like less than 1%. Enjoy the price hike, but don't worry, some of you are getting some money back at the end of the year. So the Liberal carbon tax is making everything so expensive? The answer is yes. And here's a few pennies back, you pleb. Shut up and take it. We know better. It's for your own good. I'm going to go a little faster here. The Liberals aren't doing anything to make housing more affordable. Wrong. We're building many new houses. This couldn't be further from the truth. Our Liberal team is taking important steps. We're doubling the rate of housing construction over the next 10 years, helping young people afford a home by doubling the first home price to 500. This one I don't know really enough about, except to say that it's nice. You're doubling housing construction as the price of things skyrockets. So who's going to be able to afford these? The only thing that could conceptually have an impact on the price of housing in Canada to reduce it is not to allow foreigners to buy up residential property and then either use it for rentals or use it as investment properties. Use it as rentals or otherwise use it as investment properties. And you know, the other thing that would help people buy houses is having good jobs with good pay without massive inflation. Build all the houses you want. If Canadians can't afford them, it's not going to resolve any problem unless you just nationalize all of these newly built houses, which I think might not be too far off in the future in Canada. We're doubling the rate of construction. Good. Over the next 10 years. Well, hopefully you're not going to be in power for the next 10 years, you incompetent, corrupt nincompoops. Helping young people afford a home by doubling the first-time home buyers tax credit. Providing a $500 payment this year to renters struggling. Well, that doesn't do anything to help people buy. You're giving $500 to renters struggling with the cost of housing due to inflation, which is someone else's fault. That doesn't help anybody buy a house. Cracking down on foreign ownership. So they're doing that. And speculation and so much more. Oh, I thought I recalled the time when cracking down on foreign ownership and speculation was passed off as racist and xenophobic. I thought I remembered that. I'm not sure. Oh, we only got two more. It's the NDP Liberal coalition government. Let me just see if I've missed anything on Rumble. It's the NDP Liberal coalition government. That's true. The only caveat to that is this is what they're going to say. It's not a coalition government. The NDP is still holding the Liberal feet to the fire, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire, and we're going to use each other to ensure that we have the best policy made to represent all of Canadians' interests. Don't get burned. Here are the facts. In the last elections, Canadians elected a strong Liberal government. That's a lie. That is a flat out lie. It was, I think, my understanding, it was like the weakest minority government ever elected. I'm sorry, but maybe it's just a matter of opinion. It's a strong Liberal government, and that's exactly what they have. The Liberals and the NDP aren't in a coalition government, but the Liberal government has signed a supply and confidence agreement. They're just liars. They're just liars. Justin Trudeau, you are just a liar. Justin Trudeau is just a liar. It's not a coalition, but we've signed a supply and confidence agreement with the NDP to ensure the government can present and implement budgets. That's called a coalition. You liar. Why would you even be ashamed to admit it? Probably the NDP doesn't want the Liberals saying it's a coalition because it's a coalition with the devil. And you've done it, Jagmeet Singh. You have coalesced. Is that the word? You have collided. No. You have coalitioned with the devil. In fact, coalesced is not the word. Neither is collided. You have coalitioned with an unethical, criminal, corrupt government. I bet you the NDP said, no. Deny this and reframe it because we don't want to admit we've coalitioned with a corrupt, criminal, incompetent, dangerous government. And I'm quoting Jagmeet Singh himself. That functions with predictability and stability, also known as a coalition, you liar. Canadians expect parliamentarians to work together to live on the president. No. Actually, Canadians expect opposition to hold the feet of a minority or majority government to the fire, to make them prove their claims, to make them enact reasonable, rational, and effective policy, not to work together for the benefit of government just for the sake of it. That's why we're working with the NDP. We're working with them, but it's not a coalition. And other political parties, unfortunately, at every turn, conservative politicians have tried to stop our progress. Maybe it's time they catch up and get to work for all Canadians. I don't even know what to think. This would make Joseph Goebbels jealous. This level of taxpayer-funded propaganda would make Goebbels himself green with envy. Politicians aren't looking after. Sure they are. Don't believe all of this stuff. Here's all the good stuff. Okay. Holy crab apple. So it doesn't even matter what's left on my Twitter timeline. That's it. Holy crab apples. Well, people, you've seen the best propaganda taxpayer dollars can buy. On the Rumbles, someone said foreign purchases are not the big issue. Kenzie 67. It is zoning permit strangulation and immigration. Correct. You will own nothing and be happy. What is $500 going to do? Preaxius says. People, thank you for spending a Saturday afternoon with me. This is technically work, but I've got to tell you, I am the most fortunate person in the world to truly understand and live with the good fortune of understanding that when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And I know it's a Saturday. It stopped raining. Kids are out there. I know they want to go do something fun. I could be fishing, could be biking. I will go jogging, but I love doing this. I love spending 2 hours just goes by like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. it is my privilege and my honor to continue doing this, dissecting the world, making sense of a world that has gone mad. And we'll be doing more of that tomorrow night with Barnes, vivabarneslaw.locals.com for anyone who wants to join our community there. There are general members and supporting members, and the membership community is beautiful. vivafrei.com for any merch anybody might want to get to wear with pride. Support the channel. What else is there? Viva Clips for the clips. Go check it out. Subscribe. Share that around for people who don't have time to spend 2 hours on a Saturday watching a live stream. There's one more thing I'm supposed to plug. Yeah, I can't remember now. Anyhow, we've got an amazing stream tomorrow night. Lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of homework to catch up on. Go get out there, talk to people in real life, exercise, sunlight, healthy life, and smile. It changes the chemistry of the body. Peeps, see you tomorrow night.